Hi, Karen Glassman here with Potomac Pediatrics. Welcome to a Saturday morning edition of Home Quarantine with Your Children, Day 1. So today is the official day that our kids are home with no activities to do, and we are being told that we are going to be doing this now for the next couple of weeks. And on the one hand, it is such a relief to know that we are doing something really important to reduce the spread of the infection of coronavirus. And at the same time, we need to be prepared for how we are going to manage this next phase of this, for lack of a better word, it feels like a crisis. And so I want to let you all know that historically I have been Dr. Glassman half full. And so you can certainly expect a half full angle to this issue. I actually believe our children desperately needed a break from the roller coaster of life that we have them on. And I don't see this as such a terrible thing for our children as long as we use it as an opportunity in the right way. And the opportunity is not obvious to a lot of us, but this is an opportunity for us to be the best versions of the parents that we can, given all the practice that we have had over the last however many years you have been a parent. This is an opportunity for us to demonstrate to our children the importance of community and taking care of one another. This is an opportunity to show our children how to take in tremendous amounts of data on Facebook feeds and social media and in the news and off the news, how we take it all in, how we sort it all out, and how we manage, and how we can be thoughtful as we make each next decision. And so if you are at home right now and you are feeling conflicted and anxious, you need to know that you are not alone. We are in a cultural panic attack. And when that happens, it's very uncomfortable. So half the people who are watching this are probably feeling like, oh, thank God the schools finally got their act together and closed and everyone's home. And half of you watching this are thinking, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with my children for the next however long this is going to last. We have been told it's a minimum of 2 weeks, but maybe it's going to be longer. What can I do? What am I allowed to do? What can I do in the world without being careless and negligent? And why can't I do that? Why can't I go to the park with my children? Why shouldn't I do this? So we've got a lot of what can I do? What can I do? What should I do? What shouldn't I do? And we are going to kind of hash this all out. Let's be perfectly clear. We are in a data-free zone. We have incomplete data. We have very few clear recommendations to be able to say, we know this based on fact. And when that happens, when we live in a space where we don't have adequate data to be our guiding principle in making decisions, we have to use our moral compass. And we have to rely on things that have worked in the past. And in the past, the things that have worked for the good of the community is to trust our leaders. Not all leaders are created equal, and regardless of what you think of Donald Trump, he tends to act on incomplete data, and his solution is to create new data as if it's fact. That is probably not the best way to be making big decisions right now, to create data. The better way is to take the data that we have and therefore make decisions for us as a whole. And so we need to rely on Governor Hogan to truly lead us through this, to take what is happening in the world at large and protect us as a community. We need to trust in the leaders who we have trusted in the past. The leader in the community who I trust most is actually Dr. Kim at Herbert Hoover Middle School. Dr. Kim has always led us in the way to make the right decisions for our children. So when Dr. Kim says we are canceling what we are canceling, as she is told by the superintendent, we should follow her recommendations. And when she says that it's time to go back to school, I believe that we should all be going back to school. Let our leaders be our guiding principles. I like to kind of think that a lot of our patients are watching right now. As your doctors at Potomac Pediatrics, we are your leaders. We are sorting through the medical data, and we are making the best decisions we can for your individual children and the community at large. Maybe it's time to also start to trust your friends. I have a lot of friends who are really, really, really freaking out over this issue. And a lot of them are freaking out because they're watching the news constantly. They're getting things on their social media feeds. They're getting texts. They're getting questions. And it may be too much. If you are a friend who is not necessarily freaking out, be a friend to your friend who is freaking out, and maybe just offer them that once a day you will give them an update of things that they need to know and sort through the information for them. Do that for your children. Do that for yourselves. No good comes from watching a very, very, very slow-moving blizzard. We got to take care of ourselves when we are in a data-free zone. So, why are we here today? Because we don't know what the heck to do with our kids right now. All of our kids are at home. We have lots of questions. We're going to get to all the questions because none of us have any place to go right now. But here's what we are thinking should be taking place when the kids are home. Well, first of all, this is an opportunity. This is not an opportunity for your children to learn algebra and reading and writing and various things that they may be learning in school. This is an opportunity for them to do community service because I'm going to say all the children have the opportunity to do something for a community in need right now. We have an elderly population who is very appropriately quarantining themselves off in their homes, and we need to somehow help them get the access to the world that they need. So if you are somebody over 16 and you have a driver's license and you are not in school right now and you didn't recently get sent home from your program in Europe or wherever, then you need to be creating a website to connect other people just like you with the internal medicine doctors of the world who have a group of elderly people who need things from you. They need delivery of their medications to their homes. They need you to go grocery shopping for them so that they can be safe in their homes. They need social skills. If you are a school-age kid, you should be doing TikTok videos that are funny for all of your grandparents and let it all go wild. We need to take care of ourselves. We need to take care of the elderly. They need us right now, and shutting them off is not a good idea. And these are things that your kids can do when they are home from school. There's plenty of SSL hour opportunities to be babysitters. So if you are over 13, and certainly if you have a babysitter certificate, then you should be finding out who in your community needs a babysitter because their kids are home from school and their parents need to go to work. If you we live in a county where we have unbelievable wealth and we have unbelievable poverty. There are people in the community who live dollar to dollar, paycheck to paycheck, and if you are not one of those people, you should be actively helping those people access the resources that they need. And I'm going to put in a little plug for the whole toilet paper situation. So here's the thing. It's almost funny that there's no toilet paper at the grocery stores, but the truth of the matter is that toilet paper is something that we use for sanitation. And if you went to the grocery store and you stockpiled 14 cases of toilet paper so that you had it, what happened is that you have reduced access to toilet paper to people who may need it. And when we have to switch to a sanitation where we are using soap and water, which is also a limited resource, that's not in our best interest. So perhaps if you are a youth who knows how to do a TikTok video, or maybe you know how to build a website, or maybe you know how to leverage social media, get your communities, bank together your toilet paper, distribute what you need to really have what you need, and distribute the rest to the poor and the people who not only don't have physical access, poor elderly, oh my goodness, they don't have physical access to toilet paper and they don't have financial access to toilet paper. You are smart enough, the kids, I'm speaking right now to the children of community, you can make this better than we are making it ourselves. We need to prepare for school and life to resume. At some point, we are all going to go back to school, we're all going to go back to life. And when we do that, we're going to need some things. We're going to need haircuts. We're going to need clothing. We're going to need active, and you know what we're going to have? We're not going to have time to do all of that stuff because we're all going to be catching up on the things that we didn't do while we were quarantined. So we need to kind of be thoughtful. Did Governor Hogan tell us to not? No. Did he tell us that we shouldn't get haircuts, that we shouldn't go have checkups, that we shouldn't seek when our children are sick? No, he didn't. He gave us very specific guidelines on how we should do social distancing in a healthy way to reduce the spread of infection. If you are at risk for spreading the infection, you should be following these recommendations to the letter. In our practice at Potomac Pediatrics, we are following the guidelines for sanitation to the letter, to the best of our ability to create the safest environment for your children. And I have to tell you, I don't think our practice has ever been cleaner. This is the safest time in history to be in our office as we effectively manage infection control and keep the people out who shouldn't be coming, bringing the people in who should be coming. Kids are out of school, you should be calling for your checkups. If you are uncomfortable with that and you are going to have a full-blown panic attack coming in for your checkup, you should not have your checkup. We totally respect that. Go ahead and help us out. Cancel your appointment now. Don't wait until the last minute. If you're panicked now, you're likely to be panicked next week. Go ahead and cancel your appointment so we can make room for those people who aren't panicked. And please help us follow our infection regulations. It's going to be a little different when you come to the office because we are going to be moving people through in a different way. If you have trusted us in the past, trust us now that we have your child's best health and interest in our hearts, and that we can safely and effectively follow the rules that have been given to us that actually we do know really kind of work because we're watching it work in Korea. Schedules and rules. So I'm seeing online all of these, you put your child on a schedule to keep things regular, and for some children, that is a fabulous idea. For our special needs children, that is absolutely critical. Oh, by the way, quick plug for our special needs children, twofold. First, if you are on the spectrum, you have a unique ability right now that our society needs. You are not going to freak out by this kind of panic in this kind of way, and you are going to follow all the rules because that's the way you are. We need you right now. Never before have we needed children on the spectrum to step up and help us manage this society. You are leaders in this way, and we need you to do it. LGBTQ community, we need you. You live your lives brave, and we need you to show us how to live our lives brave. You go through your lives uncomfortable out in the world. We are for the first time ever experiencing what it's like to be uncomfortable out in the world. Show us the way. Show us how to live our best versions of ourselves. And so honor yourself. If you are somebody or you have a child who needs a very strict, regimented life, we should help you create that. If you are somebody or you have a child who needs a little bit of flexibility and freedom right now, you should give them that too. Here's what I'm doing in my house. Can't tell you what to do in your house. What we are doing in our household, we are having a party every single night. We are intentionally tasting cereals from when I was a kid. We're having Captain Crunch and honeycomb cereals because it's fun. We're having s'mores night. We are baking cookies. We are doing things together as a family because truthfully, the days are so stressful. When I get home and I'm in a panic, I really need to be with my kids. The kids are bored out of their minds. They interestingly need and want to be with us. We are intentionally planning family time together. That's how we are managing. We are not putting restrictions on how much screen time they can watch or not watch. We are not putting restrictions on who they can talk to or who they can't talk to. We are allowing them the freedom to be them because you know what? They're really ticked off, and the kids have every reason to be ticked off. Every high school senior who's being robbed of prom, every college freshman who is being robbed of the end of their freshman year, every person who had to come home from their semester abroad, every bar and bat mitzvah that got canceled right now. Our kids were living their lives and they were just doing what we had asked them to do, and we have now shut them down. Now is our time to listen to them, to hear them, to let them be frustrated. Your kids are not going to be their best versions of themselves right now, unless, of course, you are the best version of yourself and you can figure out how to navigate this time where we have incomplete data and we have to make the best decisions for ourselves. So I'm gonna stop yapping because I think I've yapped way too long, which is something that happens to me frequently. You can tease out what's important to you or what's not important to you. Please know that we will continue to update you with our thoughts and ideas. Most of this conversation was commentary because we are in a data-free zone, but it's commentary from what I hope is a trusted leader. Karen Glassman at Potomac Pediatrics. Let's hit some questions.
Would love your opinion on going to playgrounds. I have a 2-year-old who is still going to daycare.
So playground daycare, I think that we have demonstrated that children, particularly the very young children going out and about in the world, is completely safe. Having said that, we are supposed to wash our hands for 20 seconds in water before we touch things and after we touch our faces. And we make sure that there are no people who are at risk who are at the playground. So if you are a grandparent, you should not be taking your grandchild to the playground right now. If you have recently traveled and you are on the list of people who should be self-quarantining, you should not be at the playground. But yes, you should be going to the playground. Yes, you should be having birthday parties. And you know what? As a matter of fact, my son, as I was leaving today, was saying that today we're going to have Mother's Day in March because why wouldn't you celebrate something together? Maybe plan on having a birthday party with some friends because that's not a risk for the transmission of this infection, and that is not being careless and negligent. That is taking care of a deep need that we have to be outside in the world and with other people and connected at a time when being connected feels dangerous.
Is that any different than play dates?
Is that any different than play dates? That is not any different than play dates. The guidelines are we should not gather in places of more than 250 people. The guidelines are we should not gather in places of more than 250 people. You should not have a play date with more than 250 people. Ever.
Would love opinions on whether to send toddlers to daycare if they are open. And if we do, should we have our toddlers avoid contact with their grandparents?
Should kids go to daycare? Yes, the answer is they should go to daycare. Daycares, hey, if you've got elderly people and you are looking for a youth who be healthy and home from school who might be looking for jobs or work, let's see if we can hook you all together so that you guys can stay open while keeping your staff healthy, while making sure that we're not spreading the infection. And should we keep these kids away from their grandparents? I think the guidelines are right now, yes. Yes, kids can be transmitting this infection to their grandparents. Unless you are living together, I don't think that you should be actively being together unless there's a specific need.
What else can we use to replace hand sanitizer?
What else? Your hand sanitizer, soap and water. So that's a little bit of a problem. So when you use soap and water, you should be putting your hands under the water to wet it, put the sun, scrub for 20 seconds, rinse off. When you're rinsing off, the water come off this way, dry your hands, and whatever you dry your hands with, use that to turn off the faucet. That is the best way to clean your hands. And then, as your friend, I'm going to suggest you also take a little pump of lotion and put it on your hands, because if you're washing your hands as frequently as you should be, our hands are going to be pretty raw right now.
Is this the opposite of community spread and flattening the curve, especially when children are super spreaders for viruses and colds?
Is this the opposite? Help me understand what the question is. What do you think they're asking?
Is this the opposite of... So are you giving advice that is going against the recommendations that this would contribute to community spread?
So the answer is, I don't believe so. Data-free zone. So here's what we know. We know that cruise ships, living close quarters, nursing homes, warms are absolute places where this virus is spreading like a daycare virus. What's interesting is that it is not spreading in daycares like a daycare virus. And so therefore, I think that we need to find a balance between protecting the people who are really at risk for spreading them and living our lives in such a way that we don't crush society. If we don't go to restaurants, if we don't get our nails done, if we don't get haircuts, if we don't go to the doctor's office, when it's not actually been shown that there's any risk to doing so, we will destroy ourselves as a society, and there's an unintended consequence of this, which is that we may find ourselves with a much bigger anxiety problem when all of this is said and done.
Okay. How do you distinguish between symptoms of allergies and the virus?
You don't. You can't distinguish this between the symptoms of allergy and the virus. And you know what? How awesome is that? Think, if you can't tell whether you have allergy or a virus, virulent virus for the person who can't make that distinction. Having said that, since we are in a time of a pandemic, we assume that you have the virus and you should be taking appropriate infection control measures. So that is not a child who should attend a play date. That is not a child who should be going to daycare right now. That is not a child who should be doing things in the community with their grandparents, because we cannot distinguish right now. Having said that, honestly, a good physical exam, we can typically see if your child has allergy. You should come to the doctor and let us help you sort it out. Because if you don't have fever, let us treat your child's allergy so the cough goes away, so that you can go resume your activities in life, rather than spending the rest of the spring wondering if you have coronavirus.
Should we get our kids to gargle salt water at night, or do something to improve chances for being healthy?
Should we do things like gargle salt water at night to improve chances that kids stay healthy? I think all of those are really good ideas. I don't think that there's any data that suggests that it makes a darn bit of difference. I want to be mindful about having our few things that have no vetted source of why we are doing that. Then we are demonstrating to our children that we're letting rumors on the internet influence our lives without checking our facts. That's not a good strategy in parenting, in my opinion.
What if we know we cannot keep their hands clean after touching their face? I have a 1-year-old thumb sucker, and there's just no way to wash her hands before and after every time she touches her face. Constantly.
Constantly, absolutely. Guess what? You don't have to worry about her hands. You have to worry about yours and touching your face. And one who's in contact with your 1-year-old has to be worried about their hands touching theirs. So here's the thing. So then you have a 3-year-old, and your 3-year-old keeps touching your 1-year-old. And how do you manage that? You don't have to worry about them. They are not spreading the infection in the way that they spread other infections. Good news, all of this behavior, all of our kids are going to have fewer of the other infections as we actually put in good infection control for managing things. So we should have fewer spring viruses than we've had previously.
What about sleepovers at Grandma and Pop's house?
How about sleepovers at Grandma and Pop's house? So I think that we are in a completely data-free zone. I don't think that my personal opinion is that I think that that's probably a bad idea if grandparent is at risk, and I think that we've demonstrated that people over the age of 6 are at risk, and particularly if the child is ill. I think it's incredibly flip if the family needs the grandparents to help in the care of their child, and the grandparent is a healthy 60-year-old, and the child is healthy without any risk factors. I don't think that having a grandparent babysit a grandchild so that their parents can go to work, particularly if they're healthcare workers, is being very careless or negligent, because we haven't received any guidance otherwise. I think that if that was a problem, Governor Hogan, Dr. Kim, the CDC would tell us that we should act differently, but they're not telling us that.
What's the best way to explain to kids that know how to read and understand?
The best way to explain to kids how to read and understand, and again, this is another plug for our special needs and our autistic community. They are using simple storybooks, and my friend and colleague Meredith Polsky has actually together a simple story explaining to children, and we are going to post that on our website and happy to share it.
Okay. We are supposed to fly to the Dominican Republic in 3 weeks. Should we cancel our spring break vacation?
Supposed to fly to the Dominican Republic in 3 weeks. Should we cancel vacation? I have no idea. I don't think that anyone knows the answer to what's going to happen next, let alone in 3 weeks. And so if you were making that decision today, I think the answer is probably you should today, but we don't know in 3 weeks.
The next one. If you develop symptoms of COVID-19, where should you seek testing and treatment so you don't risk spreading to others?
Okay, so let's break that down. If you have symptoms of COVID-19, okay, so symptoms of COVID-19 are fever, cough, shortness of breath, chest pain. Some people are having muscle aches, some people are having a throat. I think that we think the core symptoms. If you have those symptoms and you are in respiratory distress, you should seek medical care. And in our practice, our recommendation is to call our triage line, and let us help you if you need to seek medical care. If you are a patient anywhere, you should call your doctor and determine medical care. You should, but it depends on what we're doing, and it kind of changes from day to day. So that's really should be your access point. And today, at this moment in time, we are not really recommending routine testing because there is no routine treatment, and we don't really know what to do with. If you find out that you've had COVID-19, we don't know when to tell you that you no longer have COVID-19, and no one's going to use our limited tests to test for a cure. So at this moment in time, I'm not exactly sure why you would be tested. That is something that is changing from day to day.
If a child has a fever, should the child be taken to the doctor, or should the parent watch to see if the fever passes?
If the child has a fever, should you come to the doctor? Should you watch to see if it's passes? The fever is not full. It's not dangerous. There's no such thing as frying your brain or anything bad that happens with fever. Kids who have fever tend to feel lousy and would do them Motrin. There's nothing to do differently to treat your child with fever, and so if you are able to keep comfortable at home with Motrin, fluids, hugs, and kisses, you should do that for at least 3 to 5 days. If fever is the only symptom, if your child starts to develop other symptoms like a cough, cough is not harmful or dangerous. And if your child has fever and cough, they may have a virus. And you do not need to come into the office because your child may also have coronavirus. And we are in a time where we are managing infection control. And so we recommend that you stay home unless your child is in respiratory distress. Good news, this is how you know if your child's in respiratory distress. All human beings on the planet prefer to breathe over eat. If your child is not eating, that is a tip-off that they are having a difficult time breathing. If you are looking at your child and you are wondering if you are having a hard time breathing and they have a water bottle and they're chugging it down, your child does not have a hard time breathing. That is a very kind of simple test to look at home. Other ways to know that your child is having a hard time breathing, they're breathing really fast. They're like, another way to know is that you see this kind of thing. We call this retractions, where you see the muscles kind of pull in. Sometimes in babies, we'll see the belly shoot out and the chest suck in. It looks like a seesaw. These are signs that your child is in respiratory distress. Our practice is going to be using telemedicine to help you determine these things. If you think that your child might be in respiratory distress, and you're worried about coming into the office, and we're suggesting you come into the office, let's do a telemedicine visit and see if what we're seeing is concerning and convince you to come in. But again, I have to put a plug, trust your leaders. If we're telling you you need to come in because we need another piece of information, please know that we need you to come in because what we are seeing is concerning enough and we need to take it to the next step. Two more questions.
Can the disease be spread during the incubation period before someone shows symptoms?
Can the disease be spread during the incubation period before you show symptoms? You're still a little bit of so at this moment in time, we believe the answer is yes. The problem is we have no idea what to do with that piece of information because it hasn't been shown yet that acting in a way to prevent that is worthwhile. But that's the idea behind closing down big events. The 250 plus person event is a real problem if things spread before you have symptoms. And I think we have some experience to show that even though it may be shedding, that doesn't necessarily spread, but it's hard to say. So for now, we have to assume the answer is yes.
Should we cancel driving trips where you would need to use heavily trafficked public restrooms?
Should we be canceling driving trips where you would be using heavily trafficked public restrooms? I think the answer is no. I'm not sure there's any evidence to suggest that publicly trafficked restrooms is a problem. Okay, that's it. So what am I doing? I have a Mother's Day at home with my children. We're going to be gardening outside. We're then heading over to Sandy Springs Friends Ropes course. And then we're spending the evening out having dinner with our friends. We are feeling very confident with that decision. That's how we are spending our day. However you are spending your day, I hope you find balance and I hope you find peace and I hope you know we are here for you and more messages coming next week.